Now, SAS veterans have said they're being hounded with the threat of prosecution decades after their service, thanks to a shameful betrayal they claim by the Labour Party. Now, a campaign has been launched with ex-Special Forces commanders and senior MPs to protect the soldiers who bravely defended this country and fought against the IRA. I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by the retired SAS Commander Aldwin Wight. Aldwin, welcome to the show. A pleasure once again to have your company. So we're reaching a critical mass now, it appears, where SAS operatives like yourself are saying enough is enough. This must stop. There's going to be a debate in Parliament and I believe a march in London on July the 14th. Tell us why you believe this persecution has simply gone too far.
The real problem with it is that you've got a breach of confidence and trust, as it were, between the government and between forces that are supporting the government. And obviously are the thin line, frankly, in particularly domestically in the counter-terrorist capability that we have. And if you break that, it's not good. If we look at September last year, when the Met Police announced that, in fact, if the Kaba case had gone wrong in similar sort of circumstances, and you'll remember that case, that they would then all hand in their firearms. And that would mean that in the Greater London area, there wouldn't be a single armed policeman. Well, after you go beyond that, actually, frankly, you wind up with the regiment, which provides the UK counter-terrorist team. And it is a thin line. These people actually have to be respected, because if you break that line of trust, you're going to soon run out of a proper capability for your threats. And
Aldwin, tell us about some of your service. I mean, you commanded the UK's 22 SAS regiment,
yes.
And in your time, you have to make split-second decisions. You're following deadly orders. Your life is on the line. The notion that decades later you can be pursued by a court of law for what you do in the heat of the moment, with all the training you have, is astonishing.
I think that the boys are trained amazingly well. And they have to be, because, you don't, as it were, play in the Premier League unless you are, and you want to come out on top when you get into an incident. But I think the point that we're making here is that we're well capable and we're well rehearsed. We're well rehearsed on the legal side of it. But if actually people are not confident when they're asked to go in front of terrorists, when they're asked to put their lives at risk, that actually the outcome subsequently might go completely against them, that's going to break down the trust and the link. And I think that's our main thing. But the second issue that's really worrying us is looking at the national level in terms of national security, national interest. We don't see that there is a working legal framework for these operations. There is not a working legal framework within which we are confident. And I think that's a really crucial point. We now work in a world where actually human rights, as we've seen across the board in many, many other issues, are dictating outcomes. You're in very difficult circumstances where you're trying to introduce human rights into countering terrorism.
And Aldwin, in particular, one of the cases which is spoken about all these years later, of course, is the Colville police station in Northern Ireland in 1992.
Yep.
SAS operatives are still being pursued over that. And I just want to try and convey to the viewers and the listeners of GBNews the severity, the seriousness of what happened there. Because IRA terrorists, they machine gunned a police station, right, with a heavy caliber firearm that was Russian, and then moments later you were sent to deal with them. Just get across the reality of that war, that situation, and you followed orders and did your job.
There will be some intelligence. The intelligence is never perfect. There will be an indication that there's going to be an attack at that scale, with what we would call ASU, a standard sort of IRA unit, is a serious attack. You're never quite sure where it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but there might be an attack. So you deploy in order to actually intercept that attack. Because if you don't, that may go somewhere else. If you don't, there'll be no intelligence maybe on the second one, and it'll happen without you having any idea what's going to happen, and you won't be able to apprehend it. You deploy to do that, but it never actually works out how you think it might. In this particular attack, it turned out to be, say, a heavy machine gun, 12.7, which is a large Russian weapon at a police station. The terrorists also had GPMG, they had AKs. So for the people deployed on the ground, slightly incorrectly to start off because you don't know the fuller situation, for the people deployed on the ground, they hear heavy bursts of fire. They can see the tracer, they can hear the ricochet and all of that. There was then subsequently another burst of fire as this approaches them. And the next thing that they're faced with is a large truck, which has got a heavy machine gun on it, people in it who are armed with AKs, and there are other folks with in cars who are part of the team, and there's definitely a GPMG. The case, when it came, the accuracy actually of what occurred in the case, the interpretation of what occurred militarily on the ground by the judge, who actually has zero military experience, did really not give an accurate portrayal of what occurred on that night. And that is one of the main issues. And I think we'll find that when it goes up for a judicial review, that there are some very, very large holes in the case as it was put forward.
And let's be resolutely clear on this, and that this was potential to fire grenades at the police station, heavy caliber machine gun fire, AK-47s, Kalashnikovs. You know, these are fully armed terrorists, armed to the teeth, set out to cause deadly intent. This isn't a practice drill. And you're sent to eliminate them on orders of Her Majesty the Queen. You did your job in that split second. That's the point of the SAS. That's what you do.
The thing is that you're actually sent to apprehend these people. Ideally, obviously, you would capture them. In the circumstances, if you have a direct threat of life or limb, then there is nothing much that you can do but open fire, or you're going to get killed. And then in this instance, one of the soldiers there was shot through the mouth directly, or round directly through the mouth. So you're coming under fire. You can't actually stand up and say, we're arresting you here. It's just not possible. And there is this sort of idea out there that somehow you can massage these things, let these things occur, to such a point that you can obviously get a different conclusion. And that's all very well when talking in a courtroom, but actually live on the ground, when it's happening around you, you have to make instantaneous decisions. And earlier on, we've had people who've been hit and indeed killed because they have tried to arrest armed terrorists, which is not a thing you should really try to do.
OK, well, thank you for sharing that with us. The grisly reality of, engagement on the ground is, as you say, nothing like the cosy arrangement inside a courtroom all those years later. Thanks for sharing that with us and help us try and understand the reality, the grisly nature of armed conflict. Thank you very much. And thank you for your service. Retired SAS Commander Aldwin Wight. Pleasure to have your company. There you go, you see. I mean, these boys are heroes. They're doing this in real time. They're doing it for country. They're risking their own lives. And all these years later, they're being persecuted. It's astonishing to hear their stories. It genuinely is. Thank you.